Today I'm going to talk about how to improve implicature resolution by fine-tuning using context. And this is actually inspired by two papers that were on the Cohere papers website. So the first of these is kind of the paper that introduces implicatures and how to improve fine-tuning of them. So what implicatures are basically our language tasks that require context in order to perform. So humans can do this quite well, but LLMs need to be fine-tuned in order to do better than random. So an example given in the paper is Esther says, want to stay for a nightcap. And Juan says, I've got to get up early. So this is not a very clear yes or no, but to a human, like once you know the context of, okay, this person doesn't want to stay up late because they have to wake up early, then that's a no. So in the paper, they kind of test LLM's abilities to understand implicatures in several ways. So one of these is no-shot evaluation, where we kind of directly ask the model which of these two is more probable. So we repeat the exchange, and then we say which means no, or which means yes, in terms of assigning Juan's implied answer to a yes or no. Another form of evaluation is few-shot evaluation. And here they add K examples first before stating the prompt. So for example, they add one example of implicature, which is, have you found him yet? They're still looking, which means no. The second example is, are you having fun? Is the Pope Catholic? Which means yes. And then we finally ask our model to finish the following sentence. Want to stay for a nightcap? I've got to get up early, which means blank. So what the authors of this paper find is that the zero-shot case is pretty much close to random, which means that this form of reasoning is hard for language models to do. The few-shot case improves results, but still doesn't quite match human accuracy. And chain of thought prompting, which is where you ask the model to then explain its reasoning, improves things even further. I guess the question I have is whether these fine-tuning methods really resemble how humans reason about language. And that inspiration came from this other paper called Language Models Don't Always Say What They Think, Unfaithful Explanations and Chain of Thought Prompting. So the experiments they run here is they show that chain of thought explanations can be influenced by biasing. So they basically bias the model's answers by, for example, reordering multiple choice options so the answer is always A. So the model always learns to say A. But when it's asked to explain itself via chain of thought prompting, it instead rationalizes and gives some other answer. Yeah, so my question is, in this implicature paper, whether something like that might be happening as well. So we're going to focus on particularized implicatures, which are these context-dependent implicatures we've kind of already talked about. Now, there's a generalized case, which is not context dependent, but that turns out to be much easier to solve, and this is the harder problem, so we'll focus on this. So yeah, human reasoning works because we do understand the context. So I'm wondering, what if we try prompting using context clues, as opposed to just giving more examples? Because you might think that if you give examples, maybe the model learns something about the structure of the problem, but that is maybe not the way we actually think, or a human might reason, which is using the context, or that the human somehow has the context. And that kind of reminded me of that previous example where we kind of bias the model by making all the multiple choice options A, for example. So what I'm proposing is, now for the following examples, so for example, the nightcap example, the additional context we would have needed is time related. So what if we prompt the model by asking it, finish the following sentence taking time considerations into account. So we give it a clue into what the context it would have needed to know was. And now for this other example, are you having fun? Is the Pope Catholic? That kind of hinges on understanding that this is an idiom and what the idiom means. So we might also just like give a hint saying, finish the following sentence, which involves understanding an idiom. And so, yeah, so what I would propose would be just going through all the particularized implicature examples that were kind of used in this paper, and then maybe hand annotating them with what kind of context would be needed to understand it from a human perspective. And then we can try to write prompts for our models that have hints as to what these additional context clues you need might be. And I'm curious if you compare the results using prompting using context, how that would compare against the current K-shot prompting protocol, which in this case, you list other examples of implicatures. What you're not necessarily giving the context, which I think is what you would really need to understand implicature. You're kind of giving other problems that have similar structure. Yeah, so I would be curious to see whether this does better, because I know it at least does more closely resemble how we as people reason about language. And I suppose there's a larger philosophical question of, well, do we care that the models really think the way we do, or do we just care that they get the right answer? So, in that other paper about bias and chain of thought, like in that case, you might be like, well, I mean, maybe it's learning the right answer, even if not for the right reasons. But yeah, I think this is something that'd be very interesting to explore. So yeah, thanks so much.